Good evening, Erev Tov. We're on this side of the galaxy. Tonight I'm local, which is unusual for me. Usually I'm streaming with someone in USA or Mars or Venus. And now it's Israel. And it's not only a good friend of my family's, but a holy man has now blessed my studio. Maynard Breslow. I'm going to tell you a minute or two about him and the topic. And it's funny because I mention it probably in every one of my broadcasts, which this is number 275, going for 6 years weekly and not stopping. And the spiritual part, it plays into everything. And yet to have a show devoted to that particular topic, so happy that I thought about it. And I think it could be, I know it could be a monthly buzz, because people want to be close to God and it's not always easy. And so we're going to talk about God and spirituality and healing. And I did not know Maynard had an interesting past. Listen, we all have big T's, little T's. We're not here to judge your T or say that my big trauma or your trauma was better or worse. We live in the world. We breathe. We grew up. We're parents. I'm a parent. Maynard's a parent. The traumas sometimes play out in our body and in our spirit. And we work through it. We survive. We become, better for it. We see the gift in it. And not always. Some people become what we call the korban in Hebrew, or the victim. But we learn a lot. And that's what I think we're going to speak tonight, is how much we can really learn from our pain. We can learn from our trauma, and how God, I know, is in my life and in many people's life that I treated. And I think what motivated me to want to invite Maynard to my studio and to bless it was that over the years, I've met so many people that have recovered from everything from A to Z. And so many of them had God in their life, whether it's Jesus or Buddha or the divine source or the quantum or Moses or Hashem. It was a major player in their healing, and it was chemical. There was a chemical reaction from bringing God into your healing. And for a lot of us, we can talk about how that happened. And I think, Maynard, after speaking with you earlier this week, you can really account for how God changed your life. So welcome to my studio, and so happy that you gave me this 40-50 minutes tonight. Thank you. To you and your family.
Grateful to be here. Very nice. Appreciate kind words, and yeah, we'll see. We'll have a great conversation for sure.
So here you go, Maynard. Talk a little bit about, I like a timeline. You grew up, you had some trauma, you fell, maybe didn't get up, fell again, then got up. Talk a little bit about and how you brought God into your life and how God helps you in your life.
Yeah, definitely. So if we're getting to the whole kind of journey a little bit, my name is Maynard. I am I'm a father, husband, grateful to be here, friend of Dr. Tovah, her daughter and son-in-law, and yes, the CEO, as we say, Chief Emunah Officer of Mamash Mavericks, do lead generation and entrepreneurship and all the fun things. And I think for me to get into that kind of that journey, right? I think also I'm a traveler in this world. Like she said, we're here on this side of the galaxy, the Milky Way, here in Pardes Khana, and we're all travelers here, right? So I think for me, growing up, I always had like a sense of, belief in higher power. And like you mentioned, endured some trauma. We all endured trauma in our own way. And for me, the way that played out was, kind of leading to coping mechanisms, behaviors, different things, right, where they kind of served me at one point, right, in terms of protecting myself, self-defense, like I said, coping, kind of making sense of the whole thing, and the way that my brain was kind of wired, right, as we say, that neurotransmitters that wire together fire together. So these kind of traumas and the coping mechanisms and behaviors, they all got kind of mishmashed together, right? So when there would be stress, anxiety in my life, I didn't know that I had stress and anxiety in my life. I felt very carefree for a lot of my life, and not realizing that really what I was doing is kind of masking that anxiety and stress, all these different feelings that are hard to face, emotions and thoughts and things. Growing up, you don't know how to face them. You don't know how to, you don't even know what to define what's even going on, let alone to be able to then re-examine it later on. It kind of takes an outer force kind of thing to realize that there's even anything for you. It's normal. But then what happens is, as I mentioned, those coping mechanisms kind of turn on you, right? And they, what used to maybe help in some way or another, now end up being the thing that is causing destruction in your life. Starting off as realizing like, oh well, maybe this isn't so good anymore, or realizing my relationships are being affected by this. And I think that that's kind of like the key barometer for the, kind of like term addiction. People are like, well, listen, people are addicted to all kinds of things in the world. And what makes one person an overeater or an alcoholic or, gambling addict or sex addict or, drug addict, whatever it may be, right? Where one other person can have a drink and be fine, right? Or another person can eat and be fine, especially when it comes to these natural behaviors that have just run amok. Those are kind of like the most insidious and the most kind of like deep ones, right? It's like one thing for foreign substances and kind of like, knowing that this isn't a good thing. We all had DARE or whatever, at least in my generation. Drugs are bad and all this stuff, and understanding alcoholism, and that doesn't stop anybody from actually falling into it. But when it's something that you can abstain from alcohol, but you can't abstain from food per se or other things, right? Then it becomes really insidious on how do we have a healthy relationship with this. And like I said, it's like people can be like, what do you mean? You're normal. You're a human being. This is what, we all do that from time to time. And what's the problem? And it's like, yeah, we can think that. And it did help me continue on that behaviors for a long time, because I'm like, oh yeah, every other people seem to be fine with it, so I should be too. And but then realizing like, oh, my life is kind of falling apart, with school and always good grades, and when grades are slipping, or my relationships, and I'm realizing that that it's really making a big impact on me. I think that kind of is the barometer for like that term addiction, and how that inner trauma, turmoil, mental kind of, and really a spiritual malady ends up manifesting into a physical one. And how for me it may be addiction, and so many other people addiction, and then for other people it may be um, stuff that you usually deal with, which is chronic pain, right? And how that chronic pain is really being pushed up, not by the back pain per se, but by the stresses and the emotions and the spirituality that's actually going underneath, and that's kind of that holistic approach that you bring, I think. So
Just the addiction, the pain, sometimes the symptoms are a cry of the body's speaking, and when we're addicted, we're not balanced. And then it becomes, most addictions, it becomes a chemical thing, because then we don't have the control. And so, one doctor here in Israel, he's a heart doctor, an Arab doctor, an amazing doctor named Dr. Nato Buto, beautiful man. And he became a specialist in helping people with cancer. He called pain and disease a cry of the soul. I mean, the body's speaking out. In all addictions, the
Yeah.
body speaks out, and it comes down to the goof nefesh, or the body mind. And so, let's elaborate a little bit more on that. And again, something brought you, I guess you hit rock bottom,
Yeah.
and sometimes we need that. Sometimes we need that.
Yeah, 100%. I think that talk about the goof and how it's the body crying out. That's 100% right. As I mentioned, we're travelers here, and we have vessels that we're here with. And I got too esoteric, but these are our bodies, right? And our bodies are our tools. And when you misuse tools, the tools can break down. And if you don't take care of your car and you wonder why it's breaking down, well, you got to get the oil change. There's so many other things that go underneath the hood. It's not just the outside, and you think you're washing the car and everything's fine, right? So for me, it really did take a breakdown. And I think for a lot of people, that's what really rock bottom means, is that the tools that you're using and abusing, so to speak, end up breaking down on you, and you get real wake-up calls from the outside world. And really, we have a choice of, are we going to continue on the path, and I need another rock bottom, right? We get to choose kind of like what our rock bottom is.
Right.
The rock bottom can be a higher rock bottom, because if you hit rock bottom and then you get some recovery, as we'll talk about, and then you go back out there, then the rock bottom gets lower. It's not like, and that's the thing. So yeah, definitely for me, it was rock bottom. Outside force that really enabled me to have a different perspective on those coping mechanisms, that it turned on me, those behaviors, the addiction that it had manifested into. And it was something that I tried for quite a while to use all kinds of different things, willpower, research, my brain, all different things. And I'm grateful, have a good brain, and things are working for the most part, at least, I guess. Grateful for that. But when things are theoretical and you understand what's going on, that's good. But it's kind of like having like a gym membership, and you become like really good at kinesiology, and you understand how all of the machines work and what happens, and what muscle you're working when you use when you do this exercise and that exercise. But you're just like walking around the gym all day, kind of like taking notes and like thinking and meditating about it. I mean, more than somebody who's outside, but you can't start to claim that like you're working out, really, that your body, that you're going to be getting relief, or increasing in strength, or attaining the goals that you were seeking out when you got that gym membership. So for me, those other things, and I didn't grow up religious, and being religious was kind of one of those things, and it has helped me a lot. But the real kind of catalyst was recovery, was what we call, the 12 step programs, and realizing, getting out there, being with other people, because a lot of the stuff, the behaviors were already me isolating, right, and being by myself and trying my best, and for years and years already doing so many things to try and curb those behaviors and everything. So the 12 steps, they require outside participation and the community, and like a group conscience, as we call it, right? And that this kind of like brings us out of ourselves, and just like you would need a business coach, the greatest uh even football players, right? We just saw the Eagles win the championship, and they're not coaching themselves. They got coaches there, and even those individual players often have their own
coaches have coaches, and the
coaches have coaches, and the best players have their own personal coaches that they're paying in addition to the coaches that are from the team. And to think that a person isn't a coach, I think we live in a world, even with not everybody who's listening or will watch this is of our same faith tradition, but for me, coming Jewish, Orthodox, whatever observant place later in life, there's a big movement towards like, oh, the rabbis, we don't need rabbis and all these things. And it's like, we all need coaches. So the same thing with the 12 steps, right? Like having a sponsor, having somebody who's done it before, and somebody who has what you want.
Being accountable.
Being accountable, right? The whole thing is I can swear to myself and to God a million times, but who is there outside? And this is included in our mitzvot. It's included in everything in life, right? It's included in going to work in the workspace, or people who work on Zoom, or, now we've seen that that's a challenge, right? Having remote work, being motivated, or people having, working from home, and having to use extra tools that we've had to build for ourselves to like hold ourselves accountable, to be like, hey, I'm going to get this stuff done in the next hour, and all these kind of things. So accountability is a major part of our human makeup, our programming that we have. So the same thing's true of our coping mechanisms, right? So that was really like the big catalyst for me, getting in there and getting a sponsor. And like you said, it really took rock bottom, because otherwise there's a lot of resistance. There's a lot of justification. There's a lot of mental gymnastics, and like you said, also just without accountability, we can come in and out. You can be a person who comes to a meeting and disappears for months until the next.
And so I'm going to interrupt like a good Israeli.
No, interrupt all you want. This is your show.
I know, but it's our show. But it's because it's so fascinating, because what we learn in my work with, the body and the mind, and pain and autoimmune symptoms, and how it always comes down to ourselves. And I was looking up the meaning of spirituality. And first of all, we know the 12 steps. There's the Abraham Tversky has the 12 steps in a more Jewish context, and then there's the 12 steps, which is always pulls in God. They don't talk about a deity, but they pull in God all the time in the 12 steps, with whether it's codependence or alcohol or emotional anonymous or sex anonymous or eating anonymous. They bring in the God part, and it shows us the power and the spirituality of these successful programs are asking you to look at yourself. So they're a mirror. And I was thinking about that God is a mirror. When we have a God, again, whether it's Buddha or Allah or Moses or the divine or the quantum or Dalai Lama, but it becomes a mirror. And what are we doing? I mean, in honor of Michael Jackson, like the man in the mirror, like we're looking at ourselves. And like you said, some of us, we don't want to see it. We don't want to jump in. We don't want to connect. We're talking about deep connection, and it's scary. But yet that connection is the way out. That deep connection and knowing yourself. I call it being naked with your clothes on, like really knowing yourself and loving yourself unconditionally, no matter how ugly the addiction or how, this happened, that happened, to even love the parts of you didn't love. That becomes a chemical reaction in your brain that calms your nervous system and creates enormous healing in your immune system. So we're all back to God. Like the cycle goes and goes, and it all comes back down to you. And I feel like we're a piece of God, a big piece of God, and the people that I speak to who heal with God by their side or partner with God, this is what they say. I spoke to a woman today, and she said the God in her, she sings in the choir and she goes to church, and what's God in her life is it gives her purpose and meaning. So a higher purpose and meaning. So you bumped into, a fork in the road in your life, and then a higher purpose and meaning came to like embrace you and take you in, like parent you, even though you have amazing parents. You needed to reconciliate with somebody or something in order to move forward. So it seems like when you met your God, the God in your life, tell us more about at that point, because that's where people, I think, want to draw God in, and some of us have it. Some of us don't utilize God in the way that we could, and some of us are still disconnected with ourselves. So God's kind of like, hey, I'm here, I'm throwing you the life preserver, but you're not catching it. here, I'm throwing you another one, but I'm rescuing you. You're like, no, I'm waiting for God. So where's that disconnect happen with so many of us?
Yeah, definitely. So I think, you know, in the program, right? So everybody has their own kind of like relationship. Now in the program, or in 12 steps in general, right? So that's kind of the cool thing. You go to any program and they're guided by the 12 steps. And like you said, Rabbi Dr. Abraham Twersky has not his own 12 steps, but like his commentary on the 12 steps and how they relate to Torah, Judaism, and bringing out and really people have, you see that there's a lot of, as I mentioned earlier, resistance. And humans have resistance, right? Humans have resistance towards accountability, towards not being in control. And one of the core issues of all addicts and a lot of disease actually has to do with the desire for control and wanting to be in control and needing control. And what happens when we don't feel like we're in control and we want to regain control. And so, even in amongst Torah observant Jews, there's a resistance towards like the 12 steps. It's like, oh, this is like a non-Jewish thing, and that's why Rabbi Dr. Abraham Twersky had to come and do this and say like, no, this is Torah, this Mamash Torah. Like, you don't think Hashem is in control of everything? Like this is, there's so much value here. And he was a psychiatrist from the University of Penn, and so many funny, great stories from him there. And that leads to, if we're not in control, then who's in control? And I know we live in a society where we want to please everybody, right? So I hear you say the Dalai Lama and Buddha, and not that Buddha is we're the definition in recovery is a higher power, caring, loving God as we come to understand Him, we come to know Him, right? So, for not only for religious Jews is there a big resistance, but obviously for atheists there's a big resistance, because now God, what do you mean God? God doesn't exist, right? And atheists have a big problem with control, right? Atheists have a big problem with control, and so for some, the group has to start off being the higher power. There has to be something bigger than me, right? Something bigger with a higher conscience than me. Because, one of those things is that my best thinking got me here, right? I may be a very smart and capable individual, but somehow I thought I was fine, and my best thinking got me here. It's, we can't pretend and say that I'm just like possessed and I'm like, oh, I'm making the decisions, and this is part of the thing. Is another thing, right? As you mentioned, like self-love. Well, for an addict, they think that that's self-love. They think that they're soothing themselves and they deserve it, right? Like, I worked hard. So this definition of self-love is also kind of haywire, right? So it's like, what is self-love? Self-love is something, I think we come to understand that it's something that's going to make us healthier, not something that's going to take away from my health. It's going to affect my relationships. That's not self-love. Self-love in spite of myself, that actually ends up hurting me. Why I call it self-love when I'm doing it, when I'm in the addiction, and then later on regret it.
Well, we're now talking about balance. We've now
right. So then all these kinds of things go haywire. So what do we have to do? That brings us to the first step, right? And that is the understanding, or the admittance that my life has become unmanageable and I'm powerless, right? And this is a scary term for people in general. This term, what do you mean powerless? You're not powerless. You have free will. You have a strong will, Maynard. What do you mean? You can do it. Yeah, I can do it. I can do a lot of things, and I can do it with my higher power, because without my higher power, that's where I just went all the way over there, right? So, and it coincides as well with, I know that this for everybody. This isn't just people of the Jewish faith, right? But, in terms of even the Exodus from Egypt, right? A person in jail can't get themselves out of jail. A person in jail can't I got the key and I'm just going to open up. That's the whole point. Somebody else has a key. I'm in here. I need someone else to help get me out. And this is that for, like I said, for some, it's the group. The group is their higher power, right? The group ends up being their higher power. Somebody who's not ready to think of God. They're like, this group will be my God. I'm going to, but the person really has to surrender to the group consciousness and be like, they're telling me that when I am in this place, it's leading me to that coping mechanism that went haywire. It's my addiction. And I think it's fine. I think it's fine when I'm doing this thing, but really they're like, no. What happens when you do this? What's the next thing that happens? Oh yeah. That's like the beginning of the ritual, and that's the whole thing, right? Like addicts are all into like rituals. They get more, their dopamine starts going off before they even indulge in their addiction, right? You ask any drug addict, right? The going and searching for the fix, and then once they finally get it, they say it's better than when they actually get to use it. It's that, oh, I got it finally. It's that whole thing. So before you even go and, God forbid, use drugs that are destroying you, what were the 5 actions that happened before then? And the group conscience can identify very quickly, because a person who's outside of you can see better than you what's kind of, we're in the woods, right? And we have a tendency to over and underestimate our place where we are, meaning like, we're always doing way better than we are, or we're doing way worse than we are. And it's usually somewhere.
That's our defense. Yeah, that's our defense.
Yeah, we swing, and especially people who are addicts, right? They tend to, we say as well, the biggest piece of trash the world revolves around. This big grandiosity, and then this like, I'm the worst. I'm so bad. I'm the absolute worst. I'm worse than you. I'm worse than you. I'm worse than you. I got it worse than anybody. And then that feeling of shame and victimhood, and then like, oh, I did it again, and all these different things that go on. And that the group, you end up being amongst people who are like you, and you're like, oh, I'm not alone, actually. Like, there's other people like me. Maybe I'm not the worst. Hell, that guy looks way worse than me. At least I'm, got a wife and kids. That guy got thrown out of his house. And it's not a competition. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying, but you really do get to be like, oh, all these guys and gals are going through something similar to me, and they've all been there. And I'm kind of just, if I continue my road, I will be that guy, and so, like I said, bringing it back to our higher power, this is the first thing, right? Is that powerlessness and that surrender, right? And once again, these scary terms that people really, especially people who want to control, don't want to give up power, don't want to surrender, and really want to be in control. So, but when you see, right, then you write down all your behaviors and kind of what led you to those rooms. They make you write it all down. What's your history with blank? The thing that you have an issue with, and you're like, oh. You write it down. Where did it start? Where's the first memory you have of these things? And you see, like, in plain black and white paper, you're like, wow. This is pretty intense.
No, it's great point.
And it allows you to really have that perspective and to say, like, that the steps 2 and 3, right? Come to believe that power greater than me can and will restore me to sanity. Right, because my best thing got me there, like I said. But even in the Jewish faith tradition, it says that a person doesn't sin unless the ruach shtus, spirit of stupidity, overcomes that person. We're not in our best thinking, the person. And so the third step is being willing to turn our life and our will over to the power, a greater power, the God, carrying God, as we've come to understand God. And so this is like, okay. For the atheists who can't, all right, group, I'm gonna listen to you. And for
even when let's say we have spirituality in our life, and we don't have a God, or we're not religious, but again, the people that I've seen heal in a way that was deeply, it's like they had enormous amount of control once, because they were like letting go. And part of that letting go can feel like we're weak or unsafe, but it actually is the opposite, because, you know, again, we're talking about addictions right now. It's about an imbalance. I mean, food and most drugs and most alcohol and intimacy, it's all things that we need and we love, but when it's like we become imbalanced. So what the point I wanted to make was that these people that I've been privileged to talk to and have on my broadcast, and you probably have met some of them also. And yes, in Judaism, there is a big concept. I think in all the religions, there's a huge concept about the gift. Like, okay, something happened to me. I have an addiction, or I'm in recovery, or I have chronic pain, or I have a disease. Something happened from inside, outside, you know, like whatever it came from. When you not only take full responsibility and be accountable and kind of man up in the most compassionate, loving way, when you see the gift, when you see the greater gift and purpose, it's what people say, the purpose and meaning in what this happened to me, it changes the whole game. You are now so in control and so empowered by embracing what's happening, as opposed to being, you know, having the ball and chain. You are now the pilot. And so, you know, and
I think
so elaborate on that, because that's a take-home tool. That's like, put that in your Mary Poppins bag and fly with that. Because when people shift that in their brain, like, I am not a victim, this has purpose and meaning. And yes, I'm suffering and struggling and I'm not happy, but there is a greater purpose and meaning, and I will get through this. This is in every scripture, in every psalm, in every prayer, in every, you know, ashram in India, on every Buddha. This is nothing new under the sun. And when we apply that to our situation, you're already winning. You've already won. You're already there in the quantum. You've already created the law of attraction. You're already the placebo, right, Jeannie? You know, like, so I wish that's all we could. If we just said that to ourselves and put it in red lipstick in our mirror and had it on our wall and affirmed it, that could be all we need. But for some of us, it's still not enough. But talk a little bit about the gift, and like how you're not resentful about what happened to you. And it was a pretty big trauma. That's just to the universe. It was a pretty big D. How do we go back there and say, thank you, world, for that lesson? It was a wake-up call, something like that.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, one of the words I used there was tools. And that's the whole thing, is that now, where I didn't have tools, I was doing my best, right? People who have chronic pain are doing the best that they can. People who are dealing with traumas doing the best they can. People who have addictions are doing the best they can. The main thing that they lack are tools, right? So you get somebody who has chronic pain, and somebody who blew their ACL, and you give them now different stretches and ways to rehab, you know, different things for physical therapy. You've now empowered that person, right? And now that person can start to heal. And so when it comes to addiction and things that have a spiritual source, right? And that's what we come to understand, is that it's those other things were all just the surface. The behaviors, the coping mechanisms are all the surface. It's all the stuff deep down, the resentment, like you said, right? Anger, right? The victim, feeling like a victim, and all these different things that we didn't know how to cope and actually deal. We didn't have the tools. Now we can do the contrary action. And the things that we'd been kind of set up to do, and that we've continually reinforced in our brain and in our neurotransmitters to go down. And when this happens, we get automatically triggered and go to here. Now we can stop before it goes there. And the beginning's very hard, because your neurotransmitters are just shooting off. You just automatically get almost in the trance zone, and you're like, so then you have to stop it that 2 steps before, like we were saying. And that by itself is a tool, right? But what are the tools, right? On this level, right? Calling somebody is a tool, right? Reaching out to your sponsor, writing, journaling, getting out of yourself, doing something for somebody else, being a service, right? But then also other tools that are long-term. And once you kind of have been able to close those rivers, they never close forever, because all it takes is for you, if you let a big stream in there, it's going to move all this stuff again, right? So you think the neurotransmitters, you can rewire your brain very well, but if you then go back and rehash the behaviors, it opens up very quickly. You'd be surprised. But point being, right, is what do we have? We have a big, like I said, a victim mentality. And so how do we empower ourselves? By looking at things, like you said, from a point of view that we never had, which was, this is bad, they're bad, everybody's bad, I'm bad, all these things. And you look and you say, you know what? I'm grateful. I'm grateful for everything. And this is like, what are you talking about? Gratitude. You went through the horrible traumas. Yeah. You know what? I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I went through that. I wouldn't be the person I am today without every single thing that's happened to me in my life. And I feel like I live the best life in the world. I'm so grateful to be me. I don't want to be anybody else. If I continue on that path, I wouldn't be here like I am, if I'd be here at all. And, being able to have that catalyst has led me here to gratitude, which has changed my life, to Emunah, which has changed my life, right? Two different ways of living my life, and those other tools, right? Taking care of yourself, taking care of your body is part of the tool. It's reaching out, like I said, going to meetings, and the what we call there's like inner circle behavior, which is like the stuff that's the addiction behavior, those coping mechanisms there. Then there's the middle circle, which is the yellow zone, right? The middle is red. You're done. You lost your sobriety. You're now in your crazy place. Then there's the middle circle, which is the yellow zone. Okay, these are the behaviors that we've identified. You can live there all you want, but you're just on the edge, And then there's the outer circle, which is the green zone, right? So now we have a buffer area that we don't have to go into the red zone. Once we get into the yellow zone, we're like, okay, right? And what we have are all the green, all the good things. What do we want to do? What do I want to do with my life? I want to meditate. I want to pray. I want to daven. I want to learn Torah. I want to go to the gym. I want to spend time with my family. I want to do good work, provide good results for my clients, right? Like work becomes now a healing tool. It becomes something in the outer circle. Whereas before it could have been something that would have led me into the red because I'm using it as a stress. I'm getting stressed out at work, right? I'm letting the thing I want to hold and control. I'm the boss. No. I'm the CEO, right? That's why I say Chief Emunah Officer, because I'm not the CEO. God's
For anybody out there listening, Emunah in Hebrew means faith.
Yeah, right. We believe that God is God. God is God. And so if God is God, God either is or he isn't. There's no in between. And if God is God, then God does everything for the good, does everything for a good reason. We don't understand anything. How many times thought it was the worst thing ever in the world, and then we come to find out later on, like, wow, if that wouldn't have happened, this would have happened. And in the moment, we just don't know it. And so if we're always, all the stimuli that's coming to me is being processed from a negative light, and we're seeing the negative part of it, then, of course, we're bringing more negative onto ourselves. It's just normal. And they've done so many studies on the power of gratitude, right? On how many people
it's a chemical reaction. It's a chemical reaction. Gratitude, compassion. Yeah. They study that it changes the chemicals, and it like you talk about wiring and firing. It's actually processed in certain parts of your brain and can change the chemicals. Whether we've talked about sound healing, we talked about the words that we speak, how it can affect the blood. I mean, we're talking about, even here, thoughts, feelings, the way we speak to ourselves.
Yeah, the way you speak to yourself is everything.
Right. Praying and meditation is a conversation with yourself. And we always say your cells are listening to you. Be careful what you're going to say.
Or God. It's okay to say God too. It's okay. We're not just Buddha and Dalai Lama and ourselves in the universe and quantum physics. There's also God. It's just a matter of where we are on it, how we relate to it. As we say, God is one. So if God is one, that means that there's no all these other things that look like they're just different, manifestations, right? It's not that there's something separate, that there's God's battling with other things. There's no such thing. Everything's one. So even our own behaviors, even the things that seem negative, if God is one and God's not battling bad and negativity, so then this other thing is also good, but it's manifested in bad in a way that we are perceiving it and experiencing it. For sure experiencing it. It's not just in your brain. For sure experiencing it. The pain is real, right? But there is no like thing separate, right? So it's like, yeah, when we're praying, we're not just talking to ourselves. We are, for sure. And also we've seen how prayer affects other people, right? We've done these studies as well. What happens, even double blind studies and the effects. It's incredible stuff. And it's reality. So this is something that's more than just somebody talking to themselves. It's something, it is quantum. It is something that is, when you speak, you are creating sound waves, and they are going and they are affecting reality, right? We're speaking beings. This is what separates humans from everything else in the world. So we can speak and create with our words. We can talk right now, right? People want to make themselves, oh, what's different from us and animals? And, oh, Maynard, you're fine. Keep doing what you're doing. You're just an animal expressing itself. Okay. We can act like animals, or we can act like humans, and we can talk and create. And I'd rather be the latter, where we get to be creators, co-creators, where we have
I love it. I love it.
And the more that we have, the more that we make ourselves nullified, not small. We don't want to be small. God doesn't want us to be small. But he doesn't also want us to push him out of the room, to have so much ego, right? Ego means ego, easing God out. We push God out of the room, right? We're like, oh, we're fine. We got it. What are you doing here? We don't want that either, right? But when we can nullify ourselves and still hold our power, still hold our tools and our duty, our responsibility and our gifts, then we can allow God into our lives and align our will with God's will, and God will, right, make your will God's will, and God makes your will his will. And so then the more that we nullify ourselves, the more we're doing God's will. So of course God gives us more power, more ability to be able to go and move around and do positive things, because we've now earned God's trust. And so the less amount of trust, the more that we're showing that our behaviors are out of whack, the more a shorter leash we need. We need a shorter leash. We go like this. And that's only if God loves us.
I love the
God loves us.
I'm going to take Zach's question or his comment. He's here living in Israel, and a colleague of mine. He's a doctor of chiropractic. He's brilliant, smart, creative man. We're both from Philadelphia. He made Aliyah recently. So here's his comment. Do you see his comment?
That's a great question. That's a great question. So first and foremost, I got to say I'm grateful to be, I get a lot of this stuff from the Garden of Gratitude from my Rabbi Rav Shalom Arush, and also from recovery. And so it's not my answer. What I'm saying is not my answer. So you're right. You can't be grateful for the pain right now if you're untrained or your brain isn't trained. So the first thing you do is you find the things that you are grateful for. The first thing is not to be grateful for the pain. You can't lie to yourself. That's a farce. It's not going to be sustainable, because you're going to lie to yourself, and then eventually, right? God is truth as well, right? So God isn't a liar. He doesn't want us to be liars. He doesn't want us to lie to ourselves. And this, it's not fake it till you make it. It's about focusing. The pain is very hard. It's unbearable. God forbid. It's not fun, and I don't want this, and I don't wish it on anybody else. But thank God my lights are on today. Thank God I have food in my fridge. Thank God I have, the internet's working. I can talk to Dr. Tovah here. Thank God I have a car and gas in the car. I have a wife and wonderful kids. And we just try and find those good things first, right? And we train ourselves. The same thing as a person who hasn't been to the gym, and, we're talking about these big concepts that are essentially saying, go and lift weights beyond your capacity. That's only going to hurt a person, and they're never going to come back to the gym again. First thing you got to do is just move your body a little bit. Move your body, change what you've been doing, and start moving the direction. Once you start doing that consistently, and it doesn't happen overnight, it takes a long, long time, then you can move to the next phase. right? And so the first phase is just focus on the good in your life and help, right? And then the next phase is very hard. Well, the next phase would actually be to thank God for the future, to thank God for the future, for that which hasn't happened yet. Thank you, God, that I will be without pain, that this too shall pass. And if it's something that is, God forbid, terminal, it's another thing, right? But we never stop praying, at least for salvations, and we never know what's happening. There's a lot of miracle stories out there as well, right? So there's always an extreme case, right? There's always extreme cases, and those cases are individual cases. But for a lot of people, God willing, we can get better. We can recover. We can get better. We can, be pain free at some point in our life. And so if we can tap into just that vision in our mind for a moment and to say, thank you, God, that someday I will be with pain free. And that's not at first. That may not be for years. That may be never. But once you've been able to say thank you for what is going well for a long time, and you start building that muscle, that gratitude muscle. Gratitude is a muscle like anything else. You have to go to the gratitude gym every day.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I love it.
And
I love it.
you build your muscle up. Then you can add another exercise and a little bit more weight, right? And maybe we can get to the point where Rav Shalom Arush talks about this revolutionary thing about thanking God for what we're actually not experiencing positively in the moment.
Oh wow, that's my language. Like you're thanking him for the pain. Is that what you're saying?
Thank him for the pain, and it's not at first, like I said. So Zachary, thank you so much for the question. It's not like a beginner suggestion at all. This is now once your gratitude strength is a lot more. Then you can get to the point where you say, listen, thank you, God. I don't know why, but thank you. I know that all these things that I've been thanking you for are also from you, and I know that this thing's also from you somehow. There isn't an evil God trying to torment me. I don't know why this is happening, and I'm grateful for you. Help me, first and foremost, to maybe find the source of what's going on. But Rav Shalmars even says at first, once we're ready to take on that point, just say thank you for an hour without asking for help, or maybe the other way around. You ask for help first, and then you get to the point where you can let go of the asking for help. And because I'll tell you why. It's not normal. It's not normal to say thank you for something that's bad, that's being experienced as bad. That's not normal. What you're doing is something that goes against nature. It's natural to say, this is the worst, and it hurts. I hate it. I don't want this anymore. That's natural, and it's completely fine, right? But when we do something unnatural, like saying thank you for something that is not being experienced in a positive way in our reality and consciousness and physical and everything else, then we're doing something that's unnatural, meaning we're invoking miracles, because miracles are unnatural. We want God to do something against nature, and so now we're doing something against nature first. And we've been thanking him for the future already, which is also unnatural. We're invoking the future into our lives right now. And so
that's quantum. We're not talking about quantum physics. We're talking about
this is all, they're all interconnected. It's all interconnected. Everything's one, right? So quantum physics.
If you want to be a certain way, start to act that way. And then you'll meet that, like if you want to be a certain way, start to act like it, speak like it. And then not only will the body start to believe it, but you'll start to believe it. Is that kind of like the same thread?
Along the same lines. They're not completely similar, but what I'm saying is that we believe that there is something bigger than ourselves, and some sort of consciousness out there bigger than ourselves, and that we live in a natural world that appears to be natural, but now we're doing something that's above this natural world. So we're really invoking that thing from above, right? That thing that can break all realities and show, hey, this is just a curtain. You see, I'm back here. So it's not natural to say thank you. And so now we're saying it's everything's mita keneged mita. The world's a mirror. So since the world's a mirror, so what I'm doing, like kind of along the lines of what you're saying, now the universe is going to mimic me. And going to do something unnatural for me. and the list is long. Say thank you and see miracles is another book I suggest. The Wonders of Gratitude, like I said, the Garden of Gratitude, life changing, completely change your whole vision, the whole lens of that you see the world in. So just prepare to just let everything you think is real not be real anymore, because that's kind of what happens. So
I love the co-creator. That's really being a co-creator. It's like God is your partner. God is not like controlling. It's like we're partnering.
Not a tyrant. God is not a tyrant.
We're partnering with you, hand in hand. I need your help. You need my help. We're a partnership, and that's powerful.
As we earn the trust when we're rock bottom, we just got to get up. We need help getting up. That's that first step, and then later on, more nullification, more progress, and now we can we get more tools, and some of those tools allow us to do certain things in the world that would have looked. It's not like some Kabbalistic stuff. It's just like saying thank you is like totally miraculous.
Well, talk about neurons that fire together, wire together. I really think that we need to meet monthly, because what is it about the 12 steps? What is it about chronic pain healing? What is it about? We need to repeat, repetition. And we need to learn something over and over again and build that muscle, because lots of things in the world go against that muscle. And we have to keep building it because we live in a world that maybe doesn't support everything we want. So we have to kind of like understand the resistance and meet it lovingly. And what do? We have to work on it, repeat it, study it, say it again. And maybe what this universe is saying, that I need to meet with you once every 6 weeks, and we need to talk about this again, because I'm it's going to come in. It's like, yeah, this is great, co-creating with God and the universe and the quantum. I'm like, wait a minute. The first thing that happens is I'm triggered, but this is beautiful. And I think everyone's going to relate to it. There's a lot of people that were really excited about listening to you. And if you're not here in the live studio or on the Facebook feed, you can see it on the YouTube channel. It'll be uploaded tomorrow, and you'll see the recording. And if you have any questions for Maynard, his Facebook page will be in the description, so you can reach out to him. Dr. Maynard, you're a healer. That's it. We all are. We all are the doctor.
I'm thank God, I did get into medical school, so I'm grateful for that. And decided not to go, which is like one of my claims to fame. I like to say that, feel like I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. But and also as a psychologist, but I'm not a doctor and I'm not a rabbi, but I'm just a simple traveler like everybody else, and I do have to just plug a little bit of my stuff. If you enjoy anything, I have a Torah podcast that I like to share stuff on the daily parsha, inconsistently, but hopefully getting more consistently. But all this stuff came out every week, which is great. And also have a podcast on entrepreneurship with Jews, and also have a podcast with just B2B business owners and everybody. And also one with, I got a lot of stuff going on, and also one about conscious water and kind of like holistic wellness stuff, water filtration, and all that fun stuff.
Beautiful. Listen, I know you have a hard stop, so we're going to round this up, and I think we're going to meet again. I think if you can manage, you have 2 young kids under the age of 3, busy life.
Thank you, God.
Yeah, amazing wife, busy life.
A lot of people busier here, I'm sure, listening.
That's okay. You fit me in. And so we'll meet again, and we'll continue this dialogue, because it is such powerful, important information. And you left some beautiful take-home tools and insights, and people can apply them and implement them. And we're here for you always. We'll be back next week. So blessings from our home to yours, from our heart to yours. Erev Tov, have a good evening. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Dr. Tovah.
Bye-bye. God bless. Second. Whoa.